All right, today we're going to be talking about how to improve your confidence with these 3 self-esteem hacks. Something that we've noticed on our coaching calls and also when we've been chatting to people who haven't joined the program yet. And they're just lacking really in a lot of things: self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love. And I wanted to give you 3 things today to help improve those straight off the bat. Now, a lot of our time we talk about inside the Unwound Club, we talk about our internal monologue, right? If it's harmful, it's chatter. It's made up of these kind of cyclical negative thoughts and these emotions that kind of turn our capacity to look inwards for some introspection into a curse rather than a blessing, and I want to help with a few tips that helped quite a few of our members tackle this. And I know there are going to be members, because we're streaming this inside the MYM Club too, that have not, we've not talked about this particularly with them, with some of them. So it's new stuff, right? So if you're watching this live, hit 5 and you give yourself a high 5. If you're watching this late on replay, hit 8. And if you first time you've ever seen a video from us, just hit comment 2. We'll reach out to you and obviously send you some cool trainings, right? I think the first thing with that sort of inner critic, that internal monologue, is you need to catch that critic in its act, right? Through self-awareness. Because if you're feeling generally, let's say you're feeling depressed, generally down on yourself, it's often a product of that inner critic. And therefore, it's helpful to catch that self-criticism, that critic in the act. Now, one of the ways that we've found, we've got this from McKay and Fanning, a couple of psychologists, just relax, right? As soon as you find a negative thought coming in, I can't do this, just relax, closed eyes, take some slow, deep breaths, relax your whole body. And you want to kind of eliminate tension across the shoulders, your abdomen, face, neck, legs, and become aware of where that tension is coming in your body. And focusing on that area, become fully conscious of how it feels, and listen to your thoughts for a moment that go with those feelings. Focus on that specific area. What are the thoughts saying to you? If you can, try and remember when those thoughts began. Was it a particular comment? Was it something you saw? What was that inner critic saying to you then? Because if you regularly perform this exercise, it is going to help you become more familiar with the content of, the inner critic's attacks, why it's doing what it's doing. And then I think, once you know that the inner critic or that criticism from that inner critic is particularly damaging, which we know, and we know sort of when it occurs, let's challenge it. So we talk back to it, and it may seem a little weird. You're like, oh, I'm talking to myself. But actually, no, what we're trying to do is, firstly, we need to reject this negative programming. It's incredibly valuable for you in the moment. It's incredibly valuable for you long term. But when you observe, I see what this inner critic is doing. You observe your inner critic at work, and you try. I would recommend try these 2 things, right? Try these two things. It's one of them is called ask the price, right? So you ask yourself, what price am I paying for the attacks by my inner critic? And create a list of what your inner critic costs you. For example, like, I avoid socializing with new people, because of inner critic is doing this and this. Or I constantly think people at work don't respect me. And what you want to do is you want to combine all these little points into statements that you can use to challenge your critic, right? For example, I can't afford this, therefore you are costing me my social life and damaging my career, for those 2 examples that we gave, right? Avoiding socializing with new people, and constantly think people at work don't respect me. So one is crushing your social life, one is damaging the career. And then the second one is affirmation of worth. To disarm the critic, which sometimes seems to have this supernatural hold on us, and sort of rightly so, because it's been ingrained for months, years, sometimes even decades. So we need to replace it with a voice that's sort of a positive awareness of your own worth. And this part is difficult. It's not easy at all. You need to challenge these long-held beliefs, and that's tough, right? But you must also realize, I'm telling you, if you don't know, you're really valuable as a human being. And one of the ways that you can challenge it is by creating an affirmation for yourself. You know, an example could be, I'm worthwhile because I breathe, I feel, I'm aware, I feel pain, I feel love, I survive. I'm a good person, right? And the best thing to do is to create a affirmation that is authentic for you, one that you can use to replace and challenge that inner critic monologue when it comes along. Because I think, well, that's this sort of mine and Viola's ethos in MYM. It's exploration of your chronic self-talk, a systemic confrontation of all of these cognitive dissertations are going to lead to improved self-love, improved self-esteem, competency in specific areas, and lead to a development of a more accurate, compassionate self-evaluation of you. And that improves your sense of self-worth. That is the goal, to improve your self-worth, right? And what we've come up with, me and Viola talk about this a lot, we've come up with giving your name, giving your inner critic a name. And I think that when you provide that, you know, you're providing that particular voice with an identity, it means that it can be externalized and experienced as a sort of an external factor rather than, oh, this is me talking about myself, right? And also, you know, you should introduce the healthy voice, you know, your accepting version, your rational version, the one who thinks realistically. And hopefully you'll see with that sort of dichotomy, it is possible to challenge that harshest critic by using the healthy version. You know, it's like the angel and the devil on the shoulder. But I don't feel that we can just deal with the issue when it arises. That's not the only solution. I think we need to address why our inner critic was particularly doing that. Why is it saying that? Was it, you know, popping up to protect you? Like, some questions to ask yourself when this arises is, what was your critic saying when you were meeting new people? You know, if it's socializing, what do you feel or think the critic was trying to protect you from? And how do you feel the critic was doing this? Because perhaps that your inner critic was preparing you for, you know, for rejection, or protecting you by encouraging you to not engage. And I think that once we understand the inner critic's function, once that's better understood, then we can look at, okay, what would you be forced to experience if your inner critic was not stopping or limiting you in those particular areas, right? So how does the critic help you in this situation or in similar situations? And what are you scared might happen if your inner critic was silenced? You know, you never had those sort of, oh, you can't do this anymore. Don't do that. Don't go out in public speak, because, you know, everyone will laugh at you because you'll start to sweat and you'll start to, you know, things like that. Oh, people have said to me consistently, I can't lose weight. Why should I go and tell people that I'm on this weight loss program if I'm not, if they're going to say something? You know, we learn, and what we see is, we know what sort of reinforces that inner critic by asking ourselves these questions. We see how some of the important needs can be met, and we need to meet them in healthier ways rather than, you know, because the inner critic is trying to save you, right? If it's a social situation, it wants to protect you, wrap you up in a bubble, and not have you experience these things. It wants to go, well, Diane's not ready for this. Let's just, she's not ready to meet new people. It's scary. She hasn't been out in a while. We went through 2 years of COVID. Let's just wrap her up. So this is what we need to kind of pick apart. And I think one of the biggest things that we do it inside the MWM club, actually, to be honest, it happens even beforehand. It comes up so much when we're talking to women who haven't even joined the program yet. And it's distorted ways of thinking because it lowers our self-esteem. And if we identify the types of distortion, they become far easier to spot. And we see it all the time talking to women who haven't joined the program yet. And we need to, obviously we're not coaching them right now, but it is for those watching who are being coached by us or not, it is possible to replace that toxic language that your inner critic says with something more accurate, right? And we like to use the Socratic questioning method inside with our coaching. And it's like Socratic questioning is like focused, it's open-ended questions that encourage that sort of reflection, that introspection. And we think this is a super powerful way to expose the logical inconsistencies in what is being said to produce a more accurate statement, right? So like oftentimes your inner critic will be talking. So like people would say, we use a question like, is it true that you always failed when you've been trying to lose weight? What we're doing here is we are exposing a lack of self-belief because just because you failed a lot of times in your weight loss approach doesn't mean you're the problem or doesn't mean you're never going to succeed. Maybe it's just the right approach. And that's what this is what people will, it's basically, we're exposing the overgeneralization. And we don't do this on any of our calls before the MWM Club. But what we try and understand is this person is saying, I always struggle. I always struggle to lose weight. Can't do it. So it's a massive overgeneralization. And it's it's the inner critic speaking. They're so lacking in self-confidence that the way that they speak, I've always struggled. Haven't been able to lose weight for 10 years. So we need to kind of unpack that. There's another one which is always like, screw up anyway. Always screw up. All right. So then our kind of question would be, what evidence do you have that people think you're messing up? And this is just a question to expose a lack of evidence. So we shape the foundations of the inner critic. And that type of questioning reveals that the inner voice, the inner critic, the inner monologue is not only inaccurate, but it's incorrect, right? There are far more healthier ways to talk to oneself, to tackle particular difficult situations. And I think it fundamentally, if you're looking to improve your self-love, you're looking to improve your self-worth, your self-confidence, I think it starts with looking at the inner critic. That's the self-esteem hacks I have for you today. All right. If you've enjoyed this, just drop a comment of value in the comment box below, and any questions, pop them in the comment box